Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. As you guys can tell by the title of today's video, we will be doing my January roundup. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've got my little book stack of the books that I read this past month. I feel like this is a pretty decent stack. It's not too many compared to like other booktubers that I watch and TikTokers who read like 20 books a month, but I feel like this is a pretty good amount of books. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the first one. So the first book that I read was A Merry Little Me Cute by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. I give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. It was pretty good, but it wasn't anything super crazy where I was obsessed with it and I just needed to dive into it like every chance that I could get. So that's why it took me a while. I think I started this towards the end of December and then I finished it like early January. It was one of my holiday reads, as you can tell. It's like, you know, very Christmassy vibes. Although I feel like the story itself wasn't really Christmassy at all. It took place, it took place over that like time period, and they were filming a Christmas movie, but it wasn't really Christmassy. But it was fun because it was a spicy book, so it was a little break from all my other cheesy like Hallmark Christmas style movies or books. But I did enjoy it. Basically, this book is about a woman named B. Hobbs, and she goes by the name Bianca Von Honey because she is a plus-size adult film star. Her boss is wanting to branch out, and he is producing a Christmas movie with the Hope Channel, which is pretty much like, you know, Hallmark Channel. So it's a squeaky clean company, and she gets hired to do the job because her photo lands on someone's desk when they're like looking at everyone else to like hire for the main person. They're like, oh, she looks different, and so they hire her. So she has to keep it a secret because obviously she doesn't want to ruin what her boss is trying to do, and she doesn't want to get fired. So she's trying to keep it a secret. But her male lead, like her co-star, is actually one of her biggest fans, and he's had a crush on her forever. He actually was in a boy band when he was younger, and he got into some trouble over the like media, and so it kind of ruined his reputation, and he's trying to join the Hope Channel and be the lead in this movie to hopefully, you know, better his image. So he also is told like, you better not get into any trouble like during filming this, you better not make anyone fall in love with you, and you know, just go crazy and, you know, just ruin what we have been trying to fix for you. So he's also kind of like, oh, I need to keep it together and not, you know, fall for this girl, or like not actually make a move. So as you probably know, they slowly start getting closer and things happen. They're basically both trying to keep it a secret that they like kind of like each other. And it was a fun book. It was very spicy, but I don't think it was anything like super like raunchy or like dirty smut vibes, but it did have spice because they obviously openly talk about like the adult film star world and stuff like that, because that's, you know, what they're in, but it's not anything like crazy. But yeah, I did enjoy the book. I loved that they were very inclusive with the characters. A lot of the characters in this book came from different backgrounds. The main character, actually, she has 2 moms, and I just really enjoyed, you know, just reading just different characters, because I feel like in a lot of books, especially like romance books, it's literally the same character just copied and pasted. Like, it's just, you know, the same like girl next door or like bad boy, and it's just, I don't know, and they're very vanilla in a way. But I really like this book that they just had a lot of different characters. But yeah, I would rate this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The second book that I read is Lark by Alex Astor. This is actually the first book in the Lark series. Her second book, Nightbane, is already out. I do own it, but I haven't read it yet, so I need to read it. But this book is, I believe it's a young adult novel. It's very much fantasy vibes. It's giving like Hunger Games, Twilight Divergent series vibes. So it's about this island that appears like every 100 years, and there's these rulers from like different, I guess, like worlds or, you know, areas, and they all have like these magical powers, and there's like this deadly curse, and every 100 years the rulers of the different places have to go to the island, and they basically have to like try to figure out how to break the curse, and one of the rulers each year has to die. Like that's one of like the first like steps into, you know, figuring out the curse. So they're kind of like trying to like fight for their lives, fight for their land, and that's for me where it gives like Hunger Games vibes, I guess you could say. But yeah, it was really good. The main character, I really liked her. There was a huge plot twist at the end, at least for me, that I did not see coming. Sometimes I'm very like mindful and I'm like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming. But a lot of the times I feel like you can kind of get the vibe of like what's gonna happen at the end, especially if it's not like a thriller or a mystery type of book. But there was a plot twist at the end that I did not see coming, and I really liked it. I was like, oh, no way. And I felt all the emotions that the main character was feeling, like betrayal and just hurt, and like it kind of got me teary-eyed because I was like, oh my god, no, I feel bad for her, like that's so sad. But yeah, I really did love the plot twist at the end. That's, I feel like, what saved it for me, because throughout the rest of the book it was a little not slow, but I feel like it was a little confusing. It was kind of all over the place in a way, but I still did enjoy the book. And yeah, it was the ending still, it just, I love when the ending is just like, it makes you feel like, okay, that was worth the read. There is also a little love triangle going on in this book, which I loved. I actually ended up liking one of the characters that I feel like most people don't like. They like the other one. I don't like mentioning names because I don't want to give anything away, but there is a little love triangle going on. It's kind of like enemies to lovers. Honestly, it is actually enemies to lovers. But yeah, I really did enjoy this one. If you like fantasy reads, but you don't want to get into anything like super crazy and just very like hardcore fantasy, I feel like this is a good one, only because it's like young adult, so it's a little bit easier to follow, but at the same time it wasn't, because honestly it was a little confusing. But I don't know, I would rate this like a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm also very, very generous with my ratings, I feel like, so take my, I guess, ratings with a grain of salt, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that was A Light Lark by Alex Astor. The next book that I have is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I love this book. I don't know. The next ones that I'm going to show you guys, I'm also like very obsessed with them, but this one kind of got me out of that little reading slump that I was in with the past couple of books, because those were good, but they were kind of like not that good, I guess. But this book, oh my god, I love this book. This is the first book in her Maple Hills series. This is a hockey romance. This is the first hockey romance that I've ever read. I actually picked this book up a long time ago, but I was trying to do like, you know, like seasonal readings, so this book you don't have to read it in the winter, but it was giving me like winter vibes, so that's when I decided to read it. So I read this in January, because technically we're still in winter even though Christmas is over, but I read this in January, and that was the first book of the month that I was like, oh my freaking goodness, I love this book. I fell in love with the characters, both of them. I really like them. They're super cute. Nate, he is so cute. I love how sweet he is to her, and just like, oh, he's so hot, and like, oh my god, I loved him. Like literally I'm like blushing because oh my gosh, I just loved him. And if you've read this book, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this book is basically about this ice skater and this hockey player. They go to the same college. They don't like each other because hockey players and ice skaters, they don't like each other. But someone like does something to where is it stadium or the ice rink? The ice rink for the hockey players gets messed up, so they have to practice where the ice skaters practice. So they start kind of, you know, seeing more of each other, and then things happen, and she doesn't want to like him, but you know you know, you can't like look at this beautiful face, even though that's just an illustration. But like, how can you not fall in love with that? Or how can you not like that? So anyways, things happen, and she has this like her partner, because she does like partner ice skating, her partner hates the guy. He hates hockey players, and he's not necessarily like the greatest friend, to be honest, to her, and he's kind of like an ASS, and we do not like him, but he just like tries to get in between it and just like does stuff, and it's like, oh my god, ugh. But anyways, it's just super cute. It's very fluffy, very, very smutty. Again, I don't think it's like dark type of smut, but it's very, very smutty. So it was really fun to read this book, but I really liked it. There's a lot of like love and hate, like mixed relationships or mixed reviews on this on TikTok, but it is a very popular book. I think it's not a young adult book, but a lot of like younger people are reading this, but I recommend that you read this if you're 18 and over. But yeah, I really like this. I'm very excited for the second book. Again, you guys know, shopaholic, bookaholic. I already have the second book, but I'm gonna wait to read it in the summer because it takes place like at a summer camp with one of the characters from like this book. But yeah, I really love the relationship that she had with like the rest of his hockey team. It was so cute. Like all the boys, like they were just so sweet, and they were like big brother, little brother like situations with her. And I just loved how the characters like interacted with each other. But yeah, I really liked this book. It was really good, and this is like a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Like this is one of my favorites. Like I highly recommend this book. I think if you're gonna get any of these and you like smut, I feel like this would be the one to get out of all these books. But yeah, I loved Icebreaker. But let's do the next book. Okay, I'm already getting emotional because the next book is 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. Just remembering everything that I went through with this book, it's like already seriously making me so emotional. This is the first book, the first ever book that literally made me cry. Like I sobbed. I'm telling you, I sobbed so much during this book, like pretty much like throughout the whole book, but definitely like 11 pages in, I was already crying. Like I looked and I was like, how far into this am I? And I was already crying. But then the last 4 chapters, sobbing. I was crying. Like I'm seriously getting emotional right now. I was crying so much. Like this story is so beautiful, but so heartbreaking. I feel like this is one of those that you kind of have to go into blind though, so I don't want to say too much about it, but I very much recommend this. It's kind of like your first love, like when you're, you know, you're younger, and it's just like, it's kind of like those vibes. It takes you back into that mindset. But it was just, it's such a beautiful story. My husband came in multiple times towards the end when I was reading, and he was like, babe, are you okay? Because I was crying, you guys. I was like, no, I'm not okay. I was like, it's so sad, babe. Like, why? Like, I was crying. Like, I'm trying not to cry right now, but this is such a good book. I highly recommend this book. Let me read the back to you guys, I guess. So it says, 1 kiss lasts a moment, but 1,000 kisses can last a lifetime. 1 boy, 1 girl, a bond that is forged in an instant and cherished for a decade. A bond that neither time nor distance can break. A bond that will last forever, or so they believe. When 17-year-old Rune Christensen returns from his native Norway to the sleepy town of Blossom Grove, Georgia, where he befriended Poppy Litchfield as a child, he has just one thing on his mind. Why did the girl who was one half of his soul, who promised to wait faithfully for his return, cut him off without a word of explanation? Rune's heart was broken 2 years ago when Poppy fell silent. But when he discovers the truth of her absence, he finds that the greatest heartache is yet to come. So if you don't want to cry, I don't recommend this book. But if you want a book that's going to be just like so good, but it's very emotional, and you just want to have a good cry, this is the one to get. There's no spice in this. I don't know if I said that already, but there's no spice in this. But like, this book does not need spice. Like, I know I always talk about spice, and I personally prefer books with spice, but I can totally read like a closed door romance or like a fade to black type of book. But yeah, this book is a young adult book, so there's no spice in it, but it was so beautiful and heartbreaking, and I don't know what else to say because I don't want to spoil it. But this was a really good book, and seriously the first book to ever like make me cry. And when I say cry, I mean like cry. After I read it, I cried for another 20 minutes after because I was just so sad. And then I went on TikTok, and something that I love to do, I don't know if I've said this in my past video, but something that I love to do is I'll go on TikTok and I'll put like the title of the book and I'll put aesthetic, and then there's like edits that people make with like, you know, people that look like the characters and just like the vibes of the book. I did that, and again I started crying for like 20 minutes, but such a good book. I highly recommend it, and honestly, oh my god, so beautiful. Like, I recommend this. 5 out of 5. Such a good book. The last book that we have is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This book honestly surprised me. I know that a lot of people really like it. At least I was seeing a lot of people like hype it up and have such like good things to say, but because it's a historical fiction romance, fantasy romance, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna love it, because I know I've read a few fantasies. I literally just talked about Lark, but I feel like fantasy is always a little bit harder for me to get into because sometimes I can't really picture what I'm reading and I'm like, wait, what does that mean? But this wasn't like super hard to read. This is also a young adult novel, but it was so good. I really loved this. This was like a really well or like beautifully written book. I'm not like super good with English. You guys know it's my second language, and like I'm not an expert on writing and stuff, but I thought that it was really well written, and just the words that the author used, it was so pretty. I don't know if that makes sense, but I really enjoyed this book. This book is pretty much like rivals to lovers, like enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers. But it's a really good book. It's about this girl who there's like a war between gods, because there's fantasy in this. So there's a war between these gods, and her brother goes off to the war, and she gets a job at a newspaper place. Yeah, she gets a job at a newspaper place, and her like co-worker is pretty much her rival. They're like trying to get the same job, and at one point she's just like, you know what, I'm done with this, and she goes off to war to try and find her brother. And there's these magical typewriters that she has, and then this other person has, and she starts writing to him, and they start like kind of getting to know each other, and they kind of start falling for each other. But then her co-worker ends up following her to the war, and she kind of has like a little love triangle going on. But yeah, it was really good. The end had me like, oh my gosh. So I had to go pick up the second book. My husband actually got it for me. He asked me to be his Valentine, and he put it in a little book basket. But it ends in, I guess, in a little bit of a cliffhanger, but it does kind of explain the end, I guess, in a way. It's not like super like, oh my god, what's gonna happen, because you kind of know what happened, but we just want to know like where the story picks up. So I'm excited to read the second one. But yeah, the cover is so pretty. Let me show you guys actually the book itself. Like, look at how cute that is. And it says Dear Iris, that is the main character's name. But even just like the like sleeve, or I guess I don't know, this is also really beautiful, very pretty. But I give this a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this book. It was really good. I loved it. I don't really know what else to say because I'm not good at explaining myself, but I recommend this. But yeah, this was a good read. So those were all the books that I read for the month of January. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these books, or if you're planning on reading any of them. And I also suggest, if you like spy or if you like smut, Icebreaker is the one to go. But also, if you want a good cry, 1,000 Boy Kisses. But also, if you want to read another beautiful story, Divine Rivals. So pretty much those are my top 3. The other ones were kind of like snooze fest. They were good, but they weren't that great. But yeah, I really hope that you guys like this video. Please make sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe. And to those new people here, I appreciate you. Oh my goodness, we're at 75 subscribers. We're just growing, and I love that. It just makes me more excited to make videos, because I'm like, oh my god, people are actually enjoying this content. But anyways, definitely leave a comment and just let me know if you liked any of these books, like I said, or if you're planning on reading them. Also, if you have a book channel, leave your channel name in the comments. Let's all be friends here and subscribe to each other. I love like booktubers, and I wanted to subscribe to more because that's literally all I've been consuming lately, so I want more of it. So if you have a channel yourself, comment, I was gonna say link it, comment it down below so that I can go ahead and subscribe. But yeah, I hope you guys have a beautiful, magical, wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!